Joy is something which is not negotiable. Cultivating joy is an important aspect to overall well-being. And he was saying, I just want to feel good. I just want to feel better. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, sometimes the most simplistic things are the most joyful. Often when we're feeling down, we're not present. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Reflection Connection podcast. I'm your host, Vince Jameson. Today is episode 5, and I'm entitling it Cultivating Joy. This is something which I think really needs to be a greater part of everyone's conversations. And in fairness, I was planning on speaking about this in a future episode, but I'm speaking about it now because it's come up for me. A lot of us go through times where we want to feel joyful. We think that we want to feel joyful, but we just don't. And we feel that there's just too much going on. And there's some validity to that. It's important to feel your feelings, and it's important to honestly assess where you are so that you can gauge it and then make changes if need be. But the conversation that I really want to delve into today, the path that I want to go down, is the idea of cultivating joy rather than joy just being there. So it's really easy to feel joyful when things are going well, on like the most beautiful spring day and the birds are chirping and you've got nothing to do, no cares in the world, and you're someplace beautiful with wonderful people maybe. That's not every day. And trust me, I've chased that for a long time. I do my best to make that an everyday. I've moved, I've done all kinds of things. Life happens. And I personally, as I've shared before, I create bubbles for myself and I live in a space that I create, which is uh, pretty happy and definitely pretty comfortable. Cultivating joy is not a new idea for me, but it may be new for some of you listening. We often think that our emotions are static things. They just are or they aren't, and they come up as a reaction to this or that, right? When someone that you love transitions, um, passes away, it's really difficult, and it would be weird if you were happy, right? Different circumstances in life, different things that we might come across in our everyday, they create reactions within us, feelings within us that are natural. Sometimes some of us can get caught up in those emotions, and there can be a fine line between feeling one's emotions, delving into them, honoring them, versus dwelling on them, saturating yourself with it, and that becoming like a comfortable state. And for a lot of people, that there may be a tendency to find comfort in it. Sometimes victimization, which nobody likes that term, but a lot of people live in it, where you might not want to or see a path towards taking greater responsibility that would be helpful in this situation. And so you're kind of feeling these feelings. Other times it just seems like no matter what you do, it might not go away, the sadness or grief or anger or something. You might have moments without it, and then something happens, or you hear from someone, or you see something. That there are aspects which, once they get stimulated, it's usually not about what's happening in the moment. It's usually of something happening in the moment that echoes something in the past, right? So it becomes not only like what he said, but he always says, and all those times that he did bump, 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 right? We've all been there. We've all done that. It's not a great place to stay. It doesn't help anything. And many of us, in my opinion, are too busy these days. Our society encourages us to always be moving and striving and going for something. And a lot of us can see through that, maybe intellectually, but then there's still the list of like A, B, C, D that we might want to have or experience or just enjoy, right? It might even be like a completely 100% authentic list of things that are truly who we are and how, and what we want to express and what we feel that we've come to life, to this planet to give and to grow into, right? Or it could just be some superficial things. It could just be like some really kind of, banal things like, I want to go on a vacation and I want to do this and I want to do that. It's really easy when we're busy, especially, to sidestep joy. It's really easy to say, I see this, but I've got to do X, Y, and Z. And yeah, I've got to do X, Y, and Z by 5 o'clock. And that doesn't allow time for joy. And in certain instances, I think that's completely valid. If that's your everyday experience, then that leaves something that needs to be examined. It's just it's important to have balance. It's important to not forget that the reason why you're doing these things is most likely for joy. And I think a useful exercise is to have moments of introspection where you just remind yourself, I'm trying to build this. I'm creating this company. I want to have kids. I want to move here. I want to buy this house. Whatever your thing is, right? I want to, I don't know, create a charity and work on world peace. Whatever your thing is, it's all for the feeling of what that thing will give. Most people have experienced this, right? Like when you get something, there's like if you buy a new car, so you want this new car, you buy this new car, there's like a minute, right? There's like a could be a couple weeks, it could be a couple days, whatever, where the new car is just like exciting, right? It's what I wanted. I have it now. Da, da, da. I feel great in it. I'm driving all over. Not that you're not necessarily not enjoying the car anymore, but that excitement of newness, I think, is also something that we sometimes chase. And if you look within that, it's a greater depth of joy. It's a greater expression of joy. It's a joy with excitement to it. One of the things that I think is a challenge in this busyness is we're forgetting this idea of why we're doing this. And we just get fixated on the thing. But in working on things, it's really easy to lose yourself. It's really easy to always prioritize the list and not prioritize yourself. I see parents, especially of young children, doing this quite often. They're missing what the child observes, right? And we all know this now. What children observe is much more informative to them than often what you're telling them. And the behaviors that they're witnessing, are the ones that they're either going to push against and try and be opposite of, or, emulate. Finding small aspects of joy, finding small instances throughout the day is a really good tool. Many of us, myself included for a very long time, we wait for these larger gestures right? So, well, okay, I'm going to keep pushing through because my vacation is coming up in 3 weeks or 3 months or whenever. I'm going to here and there. So until then, I just have to hustle, right? I just have to finish this. And once this is done, then I can relax. But if you're being miserable in the process, or maybe not that severe, if you're just stressed out in the process and unhappy and kind of just white knuckling it, you're losing out. You're losing life. You're losing the game, basically. I think we can lose sight of the importance of the moment. And, as I shared, I mean, I've been guilty of this, and I am guilty of this recently, working on my writing and the podcast, which is actually, I find pretty easy, but there's the tech stuff that goes into it and the editing and then just different things. And then the rest of the aspects of my life. And it's winter time and, I'm contemplating another move and there's just a lot of stuff on the table. And there's an idea that, again, if I bypass this, if I push through this, then on the other side of it, I can whatever. But to use my example, the book that I finished opens up to another. After that one, there's another already outlined. The podcast is never ending, potentially, unless I end it. The circumstances in my life can be simplified, but moving is not fun for anyone. And I move around every few years. And some of my moves are big moves, and some of the moves I'm contemplating are really big moves for anyone. A lot of logistics and a lot of aspects. And so I'm moving because I think that being there will create greater joy and be a better match for where I am, right? I'm trying to match where I am with my surroundings in a greater way. I also am someone who enjoys elements of adventure. There are certain qualities that I like and I like to explore. There are aspects to the move which can support the next book after this book. um, all of these things, right? The book, the move, the podcast, even, although there's an aspect of service, there's an aspect of like this being an offering, it's still in line with something that I enjoy and I do actually, again, even though there was a huge learning curve for me, the podcast is actually something that um, flows for me. I'm basically here chatting with you all. The other things, writing is challenging. Um, Editing is challenging. Time can be challenging. And winter for me is challenging. And sorting through all of the other aspects. And I'm saying this because, again, I'm calling myself out. I have not been cultivating joy. I don't know. I'm speaking this out, just I'm processing it as I'm sharing it. But what's coming up for me is almost like, well, it's almost a literal thing. This analogy I was going to give, which is someone who's drinking or partying and it gets out of control. And so then they stop and they cut it out completely, but they also stop um, the environment and the socialization. And that's really interesting because that's actually like literally what I'm speaking about um, in my 20s. And I don't want that necessarily, but maybe like a tinge, right? Like I'm so serious about my diet and I'm really, really strict with it. I do allow myself, I always have, to go out. And when I go out to restaurants, I go to great restaurants. I still am selective. I'm not likely to go to some, I don't do fast food. I'm not going to go to some hole in the wall place unless maybe it's like, I don't know, I'm in some destination and this is a hole in the wall place that's well known for being really special at whatever. But my point is, I allow myself to eat pretty much what I want. I mean, there's certain things that I won't, but I'll have the extra dessert, I'll have the whatever, I'll have a glass of wine, I'll have, whatever. I'm still choosing, I'm still selective within that. I'm still probably doing a natural wine and it probably will be a gluten-free dessert and whatever, but I'm still enjoying. And I enjoy home too. But I think what's coming up for me is there's an aspect of wanting a little more freedom and an aspect beyond how I'm currently expressing it. And how I'm currently expressing it is, as I said before, in larger gestures, right? So it's like, yeah, move like halfway around the world at this really beautiful place. And I'm going to, by just being there, there's so much built in adventure and exploration and newness and beauty, right? And excitement and new places. And I enjoy that kind of thing. I don't feel out of place. I enjoy being thrown into a completely unknown situation. I enjoy that. And so I think that there's a yearning inside of me that's wanting a greater expression. I don't listen to music, generally speaking, because of the vibrations that are within it, because of the kind of the I think they're called like earworms or something, the repetitiveness that kind of gets hooked in your mind. I've spoken about it before, but I enjoy a really clear, quiet mind. I like to be out and I like to hear the wind. I do. I like to be outdoors. I like to hear the wind. I like to hear the birds chirping. I don't want to hear bup, 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 bup. And I certainly don't want to have, Beyonce singing or somebody else, even if it's a song that I really, really enjoy, right? Like that for me is a distraction. And then especially if you couple within that, either the song might be enjoyable, but the lyrics might not be positive, and that's on repeat in your mind. And if you think that does nothing and you're so cool that like, you're not affected because you're aware of it, just like horror movies don't affect it, well, I'm sorry, you're just lacking some information. But I say this because again, kind of like with the food analogy, I can be eating out a little more often, right? In that analogy. And I think I could be doing a lot of things a little more often. And I've entered into this newly busy, expansive place, which is wonderful. And it's what I've wanted to do for a long time. It wasn't by accident. But there's some things that are missing. And I became aware of this. And it was just coming up for me. And it was coming up in really subtle ways. But getting back to the idea of cultivating joy, our emotions can be cultivated. They're not always just, as I started saying before, reactions to something, right? We're not like, Pavlov's dogs. It's not like, stimulus and response all the time. It can go beyond that as humans. And so just the idea of pulling out, let's say, photos can be really triggering in a lot of different directions for a lot of people. So for me, I'm a huge photo person, and I could be looking through photos and I can see places that I absolutely love, and it starts to uplift me. And then I can see my cat that transitions. That can just, that's a wonky one, right? Like, that's like so wonderful and so much I miss you. And then we could see like something else where it like brings up some other kind of thing. And you can use that same analogy, those same pictures, compile an album on your phone of a couple of things that every time you see it, it makes you feel happy. Every time you see it, it brings a smile to your face. Every time you see it, it's that time when you were out with your best friend and you just couldn't stop laughing. You made a scene at the restaurant, or that time when you were in this going for a hike and you were so filled with awe, right? But I would stack like things that are really similar if you were going to go down this exercise. I wouldn't mix those two, let's say. I would try and find some like really funny, really funny, really funny, even if you were to pull images from, online or something, some kind of meme or some kind of ridiculous thing. Stack like 5 to 10 things that just really, really funny. I have Mr. Rogers who's like counting and giving the finger. Little things like that, I think can be helpful to sometimes just have available and have it on your phone that you can just kind of jog through. You can just kind of flip through and look at it. Esther Hicks, a lot of you would be familiar with Esther Hicks, and she channels Abraham. And she's always very fond of saying something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, but if you're not enjoying the process along the way, what you wind up creating will also not be enjoyable. And I think that in my experience, there's a lot of truth to that. When something doesn't have some aspect of flow in it and you're forcing it and forcing and enforcing it, even if you get it done or you wind up getting it, it usually is not something long term that will bring you happiness and a lot of enjoyment. And I think that there are aspects, like I was saying, even with the podcast, that I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the process because I'm making it easy on myself. The tech stuff I hated. I'm not a tech person. I hate tech stuff. I do. I do. And it just doesn't make sense for me at this point with like, this is what, our fifth episode. To bring in somebody, it's like I'm just finding my way with it. And there wasn't a lot to be done. It's just I just don't like it. And so I wasn't enjoying it. So I tried to just, well, how can I make this easy? Right. And so there's a lot of things that I was originally doing or set out to do that I'm not doing with it. And I made it easier. And so it's much more enjoyable. And I think that there's wisdom in that. And I think that that can also spill over to a lot of different things. And so sometimes it's as simple as getting up and taking a break, getting up and going for a walk. Like, yeah, I need to finish this. Okay. And how long have you been sitting there? Get up and go outside for a walk if it's a nice day. Go do something. And if you're really dreading going back to it, then maybe that's not the day for it. And if you're always dreading going back to it, then maybe that's not the thing for you, right? Um, let's go back to cultivating emotions. I practice cultivating love. So, expanding the heart center. So, concentrating on loved ones, ideally neutral ones. I spoke about this in a previous episode. I like to use animals, right? Pets. Concentrating on like the pure idea. Using memories and images or stimulus as triggers to trigger both memories where you had the intensity of that experience that you want to duplicate, or triggering ideas that you can feel into it, right? So, like, um, I've never been to Switzerland. It's not even on my top 20 uh, places to go. But I recently came across, I don't know, on Instagram or something, and there was this really beautiful, what all came up, and it was this really beautiful scene in Switzerland. And it's the typical like mountains in the background and like green rolling hills and like a lovely, perfect cow that was selected by, might as well have been selected by Hollywood because it's just so perfect in its color and it's pretty and whatever. And it would look like it was fake because it was just so lovely and perfect, right? And there's like a stream rolling by with the purest water and wildflowers and everything. I've never been to Switzerland, so I don't, it's not jogging, it's not triggering that memory for me to feed into, but it's triggering other ones, other elements of references that I've had, which create a feeling, or just the reaction to it as a reaction of awe and wonder, and the overall composition and the beauty of it is moving me towards a certain emotion. So it's enough that I'm speaking about it. That was probably, I don't know, a while ago. And so to save that and use it as an external, tool, or you can just rely on memory, or you can just, feel into it. Like certain other elements I think are a little easier, like excitement. Excitement is really easy to cultivate because you can like get yourself going. Like you can even just like use movement or dancing around, or I don't know, go for a run or something. You can get your body revved up. It can lead to then taking that and using it towards catapulting to excitement. I think a lot of people are familiar with Tony Robbins and he's like pounding his chest or whatever. But there's something in the movement and you can excite yourself in a way that fosters a certain feeling within you. And so with cultivating joy, you can be having a hard, challenging experience in your life, and calling it hard or calling it challenging are two completely different things. It's the same situation. You'll feel about it differently, and your response and your participation within it will be different. So watch your words. We've all heard this now. It's been around, but watch your words. Challenge, not hard. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be challenging. And so you can still cultivate joy. You might not be laughing because it might be a really challenging time, but you can do enough that it can soften it, even momentarily. It's like looking for the brighter side, looking for the silver lining in the dark sky, looking at the cup half full, and then kind of delving even deeper. Have those memories, jog those memories, intense periods of joy, intense periods. And sometimes some people can feel, and I've even had this experience where you almost do it so well that then you create a gap, right? It creates like this even bigger gap from where you feel that you are and where you might want to be. So be careful of that. And you're concentrating on the feeling. Don't get too concentrated on the image of it, right? Feel the feeling within the body without, if like use the images or the memory as triggers for the feeling, and then let them go and hold on to the feeling, because the feeling won't create a gap. The feeling is in the here and now. You can only have that feeling in the here and now. If you hold on to too many of the images, that place I want to get to that I'm not there yet, that can start to create a division and kind of like a schism and knock you out of the present moment, putting you into past or future. So using them as tools and then holding on to just the feeling is the cultivation, and that's also keeping you in the present moment. Um, and yeah, and watch for little signs. Watch for little signs that repeat. That's always been my thing. When something comes up and comes up and comes up again, and especially if you also see it like outwardly, if you see it with somebody else, right? Whenever I'm giving advice, whenever I'm doing this, I always reflect, how does it apply to me? Do I need to look at something? And this is the opposite. This is because I saw it for me. And it's not as profound as like it might be as someone might assume. For me, it's really subtle, but I check in all the time and I'm always tweaking. And the winter for me, I'm someone who's very much into being outdoors. Nature is such an important aspect of my life. And I've continually chosen for the last, 20 years almost to be in places that are weather conducive so that I can have that all the time. I spent my younger years in New York City where you have, the week in May and maybe another week in September, or, that's nice. And it's been cold this year. And I've been staying in and I'm feeling it. And so I can go out more and spend some time in some places which I know would be comfortable. I can do certain things that are really easy to incorporate. I know what needs to be done, or what can be done, but that's because I've been cultivating these things for a long time. And so, yeah, start to see what can be done. Let go of the idea of the big gestures. If you can include some big gestures, that's wonderful. If you can get on the plane tomorrow or get in the car and drive, and create a weekend trip or some kind of thing for yourself. I love changing location. I think that's one of the easiest and most immediate ways of kind of shifting everything. And then you come back and you just see things with a fresh pair of eyes. But if you're not able to, just because of different circumstances, this is really an important facet anyway, even if you're going to change circumstances, change, locations to be able to cultivate this within yourself and find these feelings and bask in them, concentrate on them, dwell on them, expand them as much as you can, add to them. Well, afterward, choose to watch comedies instead of some kind of a drama at night when you're relaxing or something like that. Do your best to keep it going. If there's a sad song that you absolutely love, but it's a sad song that you come across, shut it off. Shut it off and put on something else. Put on something that makes you want to like get up and dance. And maybe those aren't the times that you need to learn something. I'm one of those people. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to improve. I'm always what have you. And that was a huge focus of a lot of my life. And I've softened that in the last few years of starting to take stock as well as realizing that not everything is there to be fixed, right? That can be an identity too, that can become you're always needing to fix something. Well, then you're saying that there's always something wrong. And so that's a slippery slope for certain people, even with health. There's one thing about maintenance, right? Just like we maintain our teeth, we're brushing our teeth every day, even though there's nothing per se wrong with them, but we need to brush our teeth to maintain the health. We need to do things to maintain our body, but there can be a slippery slope with like always looking to fix something because there's always something like it's it's something that we need to just check in with ourselves all the time. And yeah, and I think everyone and anyone can find usefulness in specifically this, in cultivating more joy. Can you do a little painting? Can you start an art project? Can you learn something that might be interesting and fun? Can you go somewhere? Can you travel somewhere? Can you plan a big trip and a small trip? Can you have like a big trip that's for a couple months out and do something immediately today or tomorrow, or this weekend? Get in the car or rent a car if you don't own a car. I used to do that, and that's kind of what had me do my moves when I was in New York City, starting to rent a car and going upstate and going out to the mountains or going here or going there. And all of a sudden I realized I wanted to be less and less in the city, even though that was such a huge part of me. Um, and now it's like, I need maybe once or twice a year to dip into a major city and I'm good. And so this is not a linear thing. This is not a one-time thing. This is an ongoing conversation that you can pick up and put down and pick up and put down, but make sure that you're picking it up enough. Make sure that you're checking in with yourself enough, especially when you're going through life changes or you're making strides towards things. It's really important to just check in, you know? Maybe if you take the day off and you go to the beach, tomorrow you can be that much more centered and refreshed. And when we're running on empty, when the gas tank is empty and there's fumes, even if you're still running, there's the anxiousness of like when it's going to run out, or you're just not in good shape. It's better to fill the tank, fill yourself up. It's a much better way, and especially if you're creating anything, the quality of that which you will create will be so much greater and higher and hold a higher frequency because of how you were operating in its creation rather than forcing something. I'm just like, hey everybody, this is my podcast. Go find joy because I don't have any. Best of luck to you. Right? Like, okay, I got the podcast episode done. It's not gonna do well. I think there's with all of this, with life, we need to have some levity too. Sometimes, and I'm very guilty of this, we take ourselves way too seriously. So be easy on yourself, cultivate some joy, add some things, or remove some things, or both. But see how you can just lighten the load and see how you could interject in a positive way, in a constructive way, right? See what you can remove, see what you can take off, see how you can make something easier, but then in a forceful way, in a willful way, I'm adding this that I enjoy. I'm thinking about this on purpose that I enjoy. I'm cultivating this. I want to feel more of this. So I'm going to work towards putting this together and seeking out beauty and laughter and loveliness and whatever, especially in today's world because it's chaotic and there's I really don't think I'm really not one. I part from a lot of the population. I don't think we're in a bad place. I think there's a lot of stuff going on, but a lot of this has always been going on, and we have all kinds of information about everything. And in that, there's opportunity because we can then select where we want to put our attention. And that is really what you have control over. And so put your intention on joy a little more today and tomorrow and the next day. And especially when you're stressed, and especially when there's a list of things to do, and especially when there's no time for you. It's like that old adage for meditation. The wise master would say, go meditate for 15 minutes. I don't have time for 15 minutes. Well, then you need to meditate for an hour. For anyone who really meditates can understand that because it's really true. And you can find space. It's just prioritizing. And so prioritize joy. On that note, I hope this was useful and helpful. If you enjoyed the conversation, please go ahead and star or review or like or whatever you want. I'm Vince Jameson, always here reminding you of all that you already are and all that you are already connected to. Take care.